Did you know one of Zlatan Ibrahimovic's former teammates legit attempted to kill him? And to make matters worse, this wasn't even the only time Ibra almost got assassinated. Brace yourself, because I'm sure you've never heard of the stories I'm about to tell you. Let's go back to 2013. Zlatan Ibrahimović played for Ajax Amsterdam and was quite good friends with Ahmed Hossam Hussein Abdelhamid, also known as Mido. The two were already making a name for themselves on the big stage as youngsters, but the problem was that Mido was a hothead just as much as Zlatan, and one day, after a heated match against Ajax's big rivals Feyenoord, the unavoidable happened. See, during this game, Mido had been benched, and he was pissed. He was eventually brought on after Ajax had already conceded 2 goals. So I think you can imagine the entire team wasn't in the best mood. And a few minutes later, the shouting and insults began between Mido and Ibra. The frustration continued to the dressing room, and this is when Zlatan almost lost his life, and Mido should have gone to prison. Mido picked up a pair of scissors and flung them at me. It was completely nuts. The scissors whizzed past my head, straight into the concrete wall, and made a crack, Zlatan said in his book. A few centimeters to the right, and Ibra could have been dead. Thankfully, that didn't happen. 10 minutes later, I went into the shower, and he was sitting in the jacuzzi. We just looked at each other and started laughing. I said to Zlatan, "You know that I almost killed you?" And he said, "Yeah, I know." These guys are crazy, man. They settled it like brothers and still remain friends to this day. But Zlatan fans know the truth behind this story. Mido didn't miss. The pair of scissors deliberately changed its direction because you don't penetrate Zlatan. Zlatan penetrates you. I didn't mean it like that. Let's just move on to the next one. I'll go ahead with the story of how he met his wife to brighten up the mood. I'll get back to the other time Zlatan almost lost his life a little later. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. Let's go back to 2002. Zlatan was still a young player trying to make a name for himself in Malmo, but he was already making some real dough, so he decided to go ahead and buy a brand new Ferrari. Unfortunately, Zlatan didn't have much experience with such cars and was absolutely terrible at parking them. So, one day, in typical Zlatan fashion, he parked his shiny Ferrari in an easy spot without a care in the world, and he was completely blocking the car of a young lady named Helena Seger. He had done so in a way that prevented my Mercedes from coming out. Quite gruffly, I told him to move it right away. And yes, he saw something that he liked. Zlatan was in love. Or was love in Zlatan? I don't know anymore. Anyways, he probably liked her fierce spirit because it complemented him very well, and it was definitely love at first sight, as the two have been together ever since, and now even have 2 children. I would say he was struck by Cupid's arrow, but Cupid probably knows better than to throw arrows at Zlatan. Zlatan would kick his ass because Zlatan isn't just a baller and a big mouth. The man can fight. Have you ever seen Zlatan play? What am I saying? Of course you've seen Zlatan play, and you may have noticed that sometimes his kicks can look unusually acrobatic. That's because Zlatan is a Taekwondo black belt. He's not the type of guy you want to mess with. Many have tried, and many have failed. But one of the craziest fighting stories of Mr. Ibra was told by his AC Milan teammate and Brazilian legend, Robinho. According to him, during a training session one day, Zlatan challenged another player to a jiu-jitsu match. But this wasn't just any other player. It was Gennaro Gattuso, one of the craziest and fiercest players in football history. According to Andrea Pirlo, Gattuso legit used to stab his teammates with cutlery for fun. Not the type of guy I'd personally like to start a fight with, but I'm no Zlatan, of course. Right before your eyes, you had this fierce guy doing martial arts against Zlatan, who is a black belt. Who won? Zlatan always wins. But for a man so incredibly strong and athletic, the next fact might surprise you. I know it definitely surprised me. But before I get to that, subscribe for the best football content on YouTube. It's free! Anyway, there's no doubt that Zlatan was the king of Paris when he was there. So Dodi's Coffee, a staple restaurant in the city, decided to honour the Scandinavian with his own burger. And boy, did they go above and beyond with this burger. 600 grams of minced beef with onions, bacon, and 3 types of cheese, including cheddar, Emmental, and Auvergne Bleu, are contained in a giant bun that has been specially made for the restaurant, said manager Jean-Philippe Grandin. This burger, like Zlatan himself, is hard for anyone to conquer. It's so huge that only 7 people in the entire world have ever been able to finish it. Do you think you'd be able to get this one done? I'm not sure if Zlatan himself has been able to finish the thing, but I'm pretty sure his dietitian would be very pissed off if he did. Maybe having a burger named after him gave him some more ideas on what his name is actually worth. So he just had to make it official. So what did he do? He trademarked his own name. Both Zlatan and Zlatan Ibrahimović are registered trademarks. Because Zlatan loves his name so much, he realized other people may be infected by his enthusiasm and want to use his name to sell stuff. So if you decide to use the name Zlatan to sell any goods or advertise anything in Sweden, you must be ready to talk to Zlatan first. Hopefully he won't try to sue me for using his name in the title of this video. And as if this wasn't enough, the National Swedish Dictionary decided Zlatan was such an icon that he needed to become an official word. Yeah, you heard me right. Wonder what the official definition is? Daring to love Zlatan is easy. Start by trying moves that can't be done. Keep trying until you are Zlatan. Who else would use their own name as a verb if not Zlatan? That's the Zlatan way of life. But then, the Swedish Language Council saw this and decided that the Swedish language needed some more of Zlatan. So, they added the word Zlatanera, which means to dominate. So yeah, he even one-upped Messi. If you don't know what I'm talking about, make sure to watch my video on the 10 things you didn't know about Lionel Messi. I'll link it at the end of this one. And I'm sure Zlatan wasn't too happy to see his former club Man United get completely Zlatanered by Liverpool a few weeks ago. I still can't believe this guy actually has 2 words in the official Swedish dictionary, especially if you take into account he isn't even really Swedish. Yeah, this might come as a shock, but his father, Shefik Ibrahimović, was an immigrant from Bosnia. He moved to Sweden where he met Jurka Gravic, who was an immigrant from Croatia. They got married and had Zlatan Ibrahimović. I'm sure Zlatan would say he had them, but biology wouldn't be on his side. With this family tree, Zlatan had the choice to play for Bosnia or Croatia, but he decided to play for Sweden instead. The obvious reason is the fact he was born in Sweden. That's where he grew up. His hard childhood created a strong connection between him and his hometown of Malmö. So he decided he was going to dedicate his talent to the yellow jersey and Zlatanera the hell out of the game over there. But perhaps the one thing he was never able to sell to Zlatanera was his clothing business. In fact, this particular business made Zlatan lose over $20 million. And trust me, that's a lot of money, even for Ibra. Like most famous footballers, Zlatan had a great thought one day. Maybe while walking down the tunnel to the thunderous cheers of fans after scoring a hat-trick, if people love me so much, they will surely buy anything I sell. Why not start my own fashion brand? And so, in 2016, Zlatan launched his own clothing brand called A to Z, in partnership with the Norwegian clothing giant, Varna. The brand slogan said, "It's not about the gear." Ironically, it turns out fans may have taken the slogan a little too seriously, because just 2 weeks after the clothing line was launched, the brand was discontinued after it was revealed that they had made losses of over $22 million. Just like the name, the brand went from A to Z in no time. But even though he lost money on A to Z, Zlatan still managed to show his brand's power when he moved over to America. Yeah, can you remember Zlatan actually played for LA Galaxy for a while? Most players go to the MLS to end their careers, But not Ibra. He just wanted to show his talent on another continent before coming back to Milan. But anyways, as soon as Zlatan arrived in Los Angeles, he topped the national shirt sales and did this for 2 consecutive years. Maybe he should have just opened a Zlatan jersey shop instead of launching a clothing brand. And now, the moment you've been waiting for. The second time when Zlatan almost got assassinated. And it legit was for one of, if not the, stupidest reason you could ever imagine. It was a little over 10 years ago. Zlatan had just hopped into his red Ferrari and gone out to chill in the city. He got to his destination and decided to park on the pavement, which, of course, wasn't allowed. But hey, Zlatan will always do Zlatan things. And if you have a Ferrari, you won't hear many people complaining. Not many, but if there is one as dangerous as Peter Mangs, you better watch out. This man was wanted for several shootings, murders, and racist hate crimes in Malmö. And on this day, he was about to add another victim to his list, Zlatan Ibrahimović. But why? Well, he hated the fact that Zlatan had parked his car illegally. That's it! He was offended by what he called Zlatan's typically Balkan behaviour. So what happened? Well, thankfully, Peter didn't have a weapon on him at the time. So he rushed home to get his gun and was planning on waiting until Ibra came back to his car to end his life for good. Luckily for Zlatan, by the time he got back, Zlatan was gone already. You can't catch this guy lacking. 2 attempts, 2 fails. Crazy to think Zlatan's Ferrari and his terrible parking antics are what led him to almost die, but also meet the love of his life. Make sure to subscribe and watch this video I talked about earlier. The thumbnail isn't even clickbait, it's crazy! How many people don't believe this side of Messi?